Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Let's go ahead and get to the Eastern Conference Finals. We have a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. These two teams have matched up with each other 3 out of the last 4 Eastern Conference Finals. And I believe now the series is 2-1 in Boston's favor. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Or I think they're 1-1 apiece. I'm not too sure, but let's go ahead and jump right into who's going to win and why.
It's 1-1
I think it's
apiece.
1-1, yeah.
All right. Like, I've been betting against my own team every single series. I did it against the Bucks, rightfully so. To be fair, though, I can't be slated for. Like, you expect the number 1 seed in Giannis to beat us. Like when we're 8 seed, we've been struggling all season long. Jimmy Butler is Jimmy Butler. We win that series. The Knicks, again, I'm like, there has to be at some point where our role players are stopped playing this good. Like, there's no point. There's no reason why Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin should be playing like this, and Kevin Love is treating it like it's 2016. Then all of a sudden things change, and Jimmy Butler, if you really look at it, he had a solid series, but it wasn't like a eye-popping series. Like, it wasn't like in-your-face type of series. I think it was a contribution from a bunch of guys, especially Bam. I want to give him a shout-out. I think he was phenomenal this series.
Kyle Lowry.
Kyle Lowry, exactly. Another player that showed up for us, been great off the bench. If we got this version of Kyle Lowry a year ago, things would have been a lot different. But now we're going up against the Celtics, and yes, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they have their inconsistencies. And Boston, they have issues where they don't lock in. But I think one of the biggest differences for us now is we don't have PJ Tucker and Victor Oladipo on defense this time. Those are guys were 2 guys that were key for us on the perimeter, guarding these guys. Like, we're gonna have to give Haywood Highsmith minutes, bro. we're gonna give Haywood Highsmith minutes. And don't get me wrong, I swear, he's been playing good defense when he's matched up with Tatum this season. I'm not even joking. It's an undrafted player.
An undrafted player.
Another undrafted player. Don't get me wrong, but like offensively, he's not that good. But like, my issue is we just do not have the wings to match up with these guys. That's my problem, and it's gonna have to take a Jimmy Butler and Bam series. And this is where we really miss Tyler Hero. This is the series that I think now it's gonna show up where we miss Tyler Hero. Don't be wrong. Defensively, I think we've been great without Tyler Hero. And, sometimes he has issues where he's a ball stopper and he doesn't move the ball. But as a shot maker, sometimes you just need a guy like that to just come in and give you a 20-piece or give you 25. That's the stuff that you expect from Jordan Poole. That's what the Warriors needed. And we're going to really miss Tyler Hero in this type of series where it's going to be on Jimmy Butler and Bam. I think defensively we're going to keep up with the Celtics, but offensively it's hard to trust role players this much. I feel like at some point you don't have enough players to compete, and I think Boston wins this series in 6. I do believe Jimmy Butler will give us a game, and Bam's going to step up. But overall, I think Boston is just more deeper as a team. They got too many players on that roster to fail. So
The one thing that's scary about Miami is the ability for them to switch 1 through 5. Like, Bam Adebayo, I don't know how that guy doesn't have a defensive player of the year by now. That guy is easily one of him and Anthony Davis are probably the 2 best defensive players in the league. So for him not to have a defensive player of the year is pretty shocking. But last year, me and Big H, we were going back and forth between who's better, Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler. And it was pretty dead on even. I'm not sure there's the right answer on that. So it depends how far Jimmy Butler could take the Miami Heat.
do you trust Jimmy Butler's health? Do you think he's going to be healthy by now?
Dude, that guy, like, the amount of faith I have in that guy is it's almost up there with the amount of faith I have with Kawhi Leonard. You guys know how I feel about Kawhi Leonard. Like, Jimmy Butler, I trust that guy 100%. It doesn't matter how healthy he is, nothing, but I just trust that guy. So if he shows up, I have the Heat winning in the series in 7. Regardless, I think the series is going 6 or 7 regardless, but yeah, my gut's telling me Heat in 7.
Who we got, Big H?
Man, this is gonna be a tough series, man. Last series I picked Miami to beat the Knicks, man. I really didn't want to double down on this team, I feel like with Tatum's inconsistencies going through these playoffs, last 2 rounds, And a team like Miami that just jumps at that, that opportunity. They pounce at that type of opportunity when they see star players not performing. Jimmy Butler smells that he goes after that immediately. So, man, Miami,
I will point out one thing though. PJ Tucker was a liability from 3 last postseason.
offensively,
Especially like I get like people like when you look at that series again and why Bam did not have high scoring numbers. I promise you, if you look at it from an objective sense, bruh, Robert Williams is literally standing in the paint, man. He's literally just camping in the paint. I don't think he's gonna be able to do that much because of how well Kevin Love's been shooting from
Kevin Love.
three.
Yep.
see, you
Kevin Love
can't
has
do
been
that with
shooting.
Kevin Love.
Kevin Love's been shooting phenomenal this series, so I think they might switch back to that
Small ball lineup.
lineup, yeah, where they have Horford at the 5. But Bam, that's like I'm not saying Bam is a better basketball player than Embiid. Don't get me wrong. I'm definitely not saying that. I think Bam will take advantage of a matchup against Horford much better than than Embiid did. I think he's gonna take advantage of that matchup than Embiid did. Because Embiid, it's like I don't know what it is about old centers like Horford and Marc Gasol, but these guys give Embiid PTSD. I think Bam's gonna do a much better job if they play a small ball lineup. But Kevin Love is gonna be a key in this series because that guy Robert Williams is very annoying. He's just literally gonna stand in the paint. So that's a
Yeah.
big key in this
That's what I was
series.
gonna say. I feel like Boston's gonna go back to that small ball lineup. Get Derek White in the game, and for them to spread
What
the
happened
floor.
to that guy, bro?
Hey,
Fell out of the rotation, went back to the 6-man role.
after the Atlanta series,
Who?
Like the guy,
Derek
Derek
White.
White. What the hell
man,
happened after the first round series? The guy was
after
looking
the
like a
first
star.
round, he was cooking. Second round, he just disappeared. He just out of nowhere, went to the bench, and I mean, rightfully so. They had to make a switch. Get Robert Williams to help on Embiid, but and it's a tough series. I don't know who to pick. I feel like I'm gonna go Boston. I'm gonna go Boston at 7. I feel like this year again. I feel like they go back to the finals. I feel like they just got too many pieces on the team. With even Tatum's inconsistencies, here they are in the Eastern Conference Finals. They got guys like Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart. They got guys like Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench. So they got some key players. They got some guys that been through. Been in the playoffs for a while. They got Al Horford right there. He's a vet. He's been in the playoffs for a long time. So I feel like Jimmy Butler playing with a lot of undrafted players. It's gonna be tough. It's like can their role players, keep it up? That's what like you guys said about the Lakers. Can the Lakers role players keep it up again for another series? Can Miami Heat's role players show up again for another series and be lights out from 3? Can Kyle Lowry and guys like Max Strus and Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin come off the bench? Can they show up consistently throughout the series and help Jimmy Butler and Bam? We'll see, but I think I got Miami at 7.
Oh, you
And
do
Miami,
Celtics.
Miami or
Tyler
Boston?
Hero. Oh no, I got Boston at 7. And Tyler Hero, man, if he was in the series, I feel like it would have been big difference. I feel like having that second scoring option right there to help Jimmy, a guy that can go create his own shot, get his own shot, and get you a 20 ball himself. I felt like it would have been big against Boston. So
I thought he should have been back by now. They said it was
Apparently he took
4 to
off
6
his
weeks, right?
cast. Apparently he took off his cast.
Yeah, I
his
remember
hard cast, but like he's not there yet. He took off his hard cast, but
yeah, because
Yeah,
the initial was 4 to 6 weeks, right?
yeah.
So
But
Yeah,
apparently,
4 to
like
6
they
weeks.
said he might be all the way out to the finals. Like who knows?
last couple of games of the series. But yeah, for me, yeah, I got Boston at 7, but I feel like it's gonna be a dogfight. Jimmy and Tatum, I feel like they're gonna go at it.
yeah,
Uh,
the difference is between. Oh, sorry to cut you off. I just have to say one last thing
No, go ahead.
because
Go ahead.
we saw what Bam did last time versus the Celtics. Like Robert Williams, he basically outplayed him. So like this has to be a Bam series. Like he has to show his dominance. He has to average at least 20 and 10 in the series for them to have a chance. So I said he in 7. This has to be on Bam Adebayo. He has to average at least 20 and 10 in the series for them to have a chance to win the series.
Definitely.
Very, 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 very fair point. My brother Big H, man, you started off your your analysis and your predictions so well, and then you kind of just lost me somehow, some way. You started off. Well, you said some things about the Boston Celtics and their inconsistencies, and that's one thing I was going to come here on here and highlight. I feel like the Boston Celtics, although they're back in the Eastern Conference Finals again, they really haven't been tested much in these first 2 rounds. We saw a little bit in that Atlanta Hawks series, but we all knew somehow, some way, those guys are going to fumble it against Philly. Even when things weren't looking so well for them in that series, when they were down 3-2, they were still able to rally back and win a road game and then win another home game in Game 7. And the Sixers missed some opportunities to capitalize in that series. I feel like in this series, if these guys continue to play the way that they've been playing, the Miami Heat are the only team left that can kind of capitalize on their mistakes and capitalize on these opportunities that are being given to them. And so, I mean, I think what Abdi's doing is going against his team and hoping that they win because it's been pretty much working throughout the course of the playoffs. But I'm gonna go ahead and stick with the Miami Heat in this series. I think the series goes 7, it goes a distance. And I obviously the difference makers are gonna be, guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam, but I'm not really gonna have any questions for the role players that have been playing well for the Miami Heat, guys like Max Strus, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Kyle Lowry. Those guys have been stepping up in their roles and thriving. And so Jimmy Butler, Abdi mentioned it. He didn't necessarily have like a standout series against the New York Knicks, but it wasn't needed. And so I feel like he has a lot of energy left in the tank, a lot of gas left for him to kind of just go out there and get his revenge back against this Boston Celtics team. A team they lost to in 7 last year, off of Jimmy Butler missed 3-pointer when they were down 1 in that game 7. And so Jimmy Butler, he's out there for revenge. And if there's any guy that I'm going to stick with in this postseason, that's out of the guys that are left, he's one of the few guys that are at the top of my list. And so the Boston Celtics, the only way these guys win is if they just consistently play their brand of basketball, which is, they live and die by that 3-point line. They've done it throughout the course of the regular season. They've done it so far in this postseason. When they're not shooting well, they're not going to win a lot of games. But if they're hot, like they were in Game 7, where Jason Tatum hit about like 6 3-pointers, they're going to be a really tough team to beat. And so I think the Miami Heat, they capitalize on those games where, the Boston Celtics don't necessarily have it on. They're not necessarily shooting well. Jason Tatum is coming out extremely flat. Jaylen Brown is not necessarily carrying the load. Obviously, guys like Marcus Smart, they're not going to really contribute like that in terms of like the scoring, like 25, 26 points per game. But, I think the Miami Heat, they're going to do a good enough job defensively, because that's where it's going to start. They got to be able to contain these two guys. They got to be able to stop Jason Tatum and stop Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, throughout the course of this postseason, hasn't really been the guy that I expected him to be, because I've always said it's a 1A, 1B situation between him and Tatum. But I think Tatum's kind of.
Are we finally done with that though?
I think now I can fully agree and jump on board and say Tatum's pretty much separated himself from the 1A 1B conversation. Especially with the way Jaylen Brown played in this past series against Philly. There's a lot of opportunities for him to kind of just assert his dominance in games where Jason Tatum didn't have it going. But for some odd reason, in the second half of games, he didn't necessarily want to take initiative and kind of just be that lead scorer for them. And so, it took Jason Tatum 50 points in Game 7 to kind of get them over the hump and get him into this Eastern Conference Finals. And so, if the Celtics, they need Jaylen Brown, they needed 2 wing players to play absolutely amazing. But I just can't trust what they've shown me so far. Their inconsistencies have been too much, and a lot of people don't necessarily want to highlight it, simply because when these guys are playing extremely well, it's like the best brand of basketball you can watch. These guys are shooting lights out from 3. Jason Tatum's getting to wherever he wants on the floor, and then you get Jaylen Brown, who those two guys kind of get into it. You take a shot, I take a shot, my turn, your turn offense, and it's going to be extremely tough to beat. But the Miami Heat, like I said, the emphasis starts on defense. I think, with Bam Adebayo leading the way and all these other role players that can play defense and shoot the ball pretty well like they have so far, will be the true difference maker. Jimmy Butler, the revenge tour is on, man. I'm pretty sure he's extremely motivated for this series, and he's going to want to get his get back from these guys for what they did to him last year. So go ahead and give me the Heat in 7. But this is going to be a very, very entertaining series, man. I completely agree with all of you guys. All of you guys going in different directions. Some of us are going with the Heat, some of us are going with Boston, because truly this series can go either way, man. It's pretty much like a coin flip. You can't go wrong.
I just want to go ahead and say one thing I saw on Twitter. People are saying if Jimmy Butler wins this championship with the Heat, this will be the toughest championship in NBA history, or the toughest championship run in NBA history for a single player.
I think you can make a case.
Yeah,
I think you can make a very strong case.
I just want to go ahead and say, if he does that, he's better than Kevin Durant all the time. I'm gonna say just simple. He's better than Kevin Durant all the time.
Somehow, someway, we always resort back to Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Durant ruined the NBA for me, so I have to take my shots at him.
No, Jimmy Butler winning a ring with this team, I think, that's like it goes above Dirk's championship run for me.
Oh, for sure.
For a guy, because what he did in that first round already, it's like historic. Then you beat the Knicks.
Did he make a top 75?
Jimmy Butler, no, definitely not.
No,
definitely not.
Wow.
There's a lot of guys that didn't make the top 75, like Kyrie and Dwight Howard.
Yeah,
and
that list was a joke. But I'm gonna go on the record and say right now, Jimmy Butler wins a ring with the Heat this year. That guy's easily a top 25 player all time.
Like
Maybe.
this would be like
Maybe even
he's
top 20, I'm not
automatically
even
he's
joking.
like to me like you'd be like an automatic top 7 playoff performer ever. Like
Oh, yeah.
automatic. Like, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like we got a series ahead of us
Yeah,
against
yeah.
Boston, but like it'll rest on the 2 stars for the Heat. Jimmy and Bam, especially Bam. I think this is like a redemption type of playoffs for him. We saw last time in the bubble when he played against Celtics. Now he's up against a much better defensive Celtics team, but I think he can still get to his spots and still score and do what he needs to do defensively. So it's all on Bam, man.
Shout out to Bam, man. One guy I've rooted for. This guy's been amazing defensively, so it's nice to see him get his flowers in this postseason run that these guys are on. He's been causing problems each and every round. I feel like that carries into this upcoming round against the Celtics. It's going to be tough, but obviously he's going to be the anchor that he is for that Miami Heat basketball team. And then everybody else, like guys like, of course, Jimmy Butler's going to do his thing, but everybody else got to contribute in each and every way possible in order to beat this Boston Celtics team, man. But like I said, go ahead and give me the Heat in 7. I trust these guys to somehow, some way, win a couple road games in this series because in order for them to win, they gotta do that because of course Celtics are a scary team.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Yes, now late, now that's overkill.